Hi, everyone. Do we have a special treat for all our listeners today? Today, we want to celebrate one of our clients who went through a process with us. And I want to introduce her. Her name is Rochelle. And Rochelle, you are the epitome of what can be done if you really put your mind to it. So we're really happy that you're here. Rochelle came to us to ask for help. And with her determination and her go-gettedness and engagement in everything that we were teaching really brought her to a point where she had massive success. One of the biggest successes that we've seen ever since we started our functional medicine program. So, Rochelle, just if you can just give us a little quick introduction about yourself. Who are you? Where are you coming from? So that all our listeners can know who you are.
Yes, thank you, first of all, for having me. What an honor and privilege to be able to share my story. As many people that are going to or watching this podcast and going to be listening to it here, my story is your story, and we're all in this together. So I hope you gain a lot of knowledge. I want to introduce myself. I'm Rochelle, as you've been told. And just like many of you, I live a very busy life. I work in trauma and recovery. And so I deal a lot with people. I put a lot of people first in my environment. It's always kind of an ER situation dealing with trauma and recovery. And I am so excited to just walk through my steps that I've taken so far. I'm not done yet. I'm still a work in progress, but have made great strides. I've been married for almost, let's see, geez, 38 years, I think it will be, and have a daughter in her 30s. And so that's been my journey and my support from my family.
Great. And just to give a little teaser, how much weight did you lose right now?
I believe I'm a little over 50 pounds now.
That is spectacular. That is really spectacular. And just to bring it back, for those of you who are listening, it's not always just about weight loss.
No.
One of the first things we talked to you about was that the weight loss is actually the byproduct, but building your body up and getting healthy is the main thing. But
Very true.
measuring the weight and the weight loss is a good way also to track your progress. So, Rochelle, just to ask a few things, we've told a lot of our listeners before that many things that get passed down to us is not just genetics, but also the way we eat. And just to give listeners a little bit of an idea, what you thought a healthy diet was and the way was brought up, how things were. What were you taught was a healthy diet? Did your parents also tell you have to eat all your vegetables?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, it was one, just a healthy balance, eat your vegetables, but, reward with ice cream or, hey, let's go out for dessert. And, I had a grandma who was a vegetarian, actually a vegan, believed in no meat in her diet. And so when we would go visit with her, she always stressed, eating meat was bad. It was bad. It's not healthy. And so you learn these mindsets. And so then you become afraid of eating meat and eating those things. And yet, so then what do? You reward yourself because you're still hungry. So you're like, you know what? I'll just go have some cookies. I grew up where every Friday my mom made homemade chocolate chip cookies. And so I grew up on chocolate chip cookies, and it's no reflection of her. It was just at the end of the week, it was a reward for the family, not knowing that that much sugar in your diet every week was going to set me up in the future for disaster. And
Yeah.
so those are some of the habits that I've learned as an adult that I thought, oh, I was doing the right thing.
Yes, that is, so, and I take myself being a new parent when my kids were born. We as parents don't like our kids crying.
Yeah.
So what do? We give them something to make them stop crying. And that is one of the worst things that I feel personally now looking back as a parent you can do to a young child. Rather to teach them, you've gone through this little disappointment. So learn to deal with it in a healthy way before you get the sweet treat or the ice cream or the lolly or whatever the case may be. But we had to learn the hard way until one day that I did tell my wife, see, I think we're doing this wrong. This parenting thing, that manual, it doesn't say all of these things. But I want to ask you now, what was it that actually what brought you to Yvette for the first time to it that made you actually come to ask for help? And I know this might be a hard discussion, but like I said, there are people who will identify with everything that you're telling us now.
Well, timing is always, perfect timing. Sometimes we think timing is just something like, oh, it's just by chance, but I believe everything has order, and this wasn't by chance that at that time in my life where I was mentally, I was not in a good place. And being a psychologist, I should be in a good place. But when your body is shutting down and mentally it is wreaking havoc on your brain. You're not thinking straight. You're thinking of all these crazy things. I thought if I have to live like this for the rest of my life with pain and the amount, I've already had back surgery, I've already had knee surgery, I've already had a hysterectomy. I mean, literally, I believe my organs were shutting down. I was in pain so bad. So when I came to Yvette, I was just in a bad place mentally. I was just like, Yvette, the first thing out of my mouth wasn't like, hello, hi, how are you? It was like, I can't do this. If I don't get better, I will check out. I cannot live like this anymore. There's no more answers. When you've tried so much of everything else and this isn't working, I've hit a point. And so I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't think straight. My mobility, I literally was crawling in the house to just have a meeting with her in the office. And literally her husband was helping me. And so it's no joke. I could not even get up off the couch. They literally walked me to my car and was like, you know what, do we need to follow you home? Like, it was very bad. And emotionally, you just don't feel like yourself. And you know that you can do better, but the resources and the suggestions that you've been given by the medical doctors leaves you in a spirit of confusion, which affects your mind, which affects your eating habits, and you just do not feel like life is worth living anymore because of how you feel on the inside.
Well, I was going to ask you, and first of all, thank you so much for being here. It's such a privilege because you've been absolutely amazing. You're a star student. And in so many ways, I know God orchestrated this. This was no accident. It was a divine intervention. And I do believe you'll look back at this as an absolute pivotal point in your life.
Mhm.
The one thing I do want to ask you, you did go a little bit into that, is how you felt. But most people, you've never once mentioned that you were overweight. And this is what a lot of people look at. They're like, so how did you get to lose the weight? Well, actually, all the other things were troubling me more. The weight loss is wonderful. But I want you to describe a little bit with regards to your mobility, your sleep, your function, actually only performing your work. How was that before you came to this point and decided, I need to make a change?
Well, first of all, with limited mobility, I wasn't able to bend over. I was barely able to walk. I couldn't drive long distances. My back pain was so severe that I was actually scheduled to see a surgeon to put a bar in my back, which would cause me to never be able to bend. So my mobility would be kind of like, full body, you got to bend over like this. So now normally your back moves like this, but they were ready to put me in a place like this. And it was terrible. My knees were giving out. I mean, you just can't think straight on top of not moving. It makes you depressed. I've never had depression. I've never thought of like, where's my life going at this point? I give and give and give to people because I love that. I love to see people heal and whole and healthy. But then why can't I do that for myself? And so that's your mindset is you can do for everybody else and you have all the answers for yourself, but why can't you do it for yourself? And so my limitation was so severe that it took 2 people to get me to the car that night after Yvette's house. That's how bad it was, no joke. It was
Mm.
terrible.
No, I remember that night, and I've known you for a long time, and I've never seen you like this, to be dead honest. It was really heartbreaking to me. And part of the thing that I could see playing off in your mind was I've tried so many other things. Why is nothing working? Why is nothing getting together? And I want you to go a little bit into what your train of thought was when you finally said, I'm going to do this. But were you thinking of what I've done and why it didn't work?
Right. Well, I've tried and spent thousands of dollars on weight losses. Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, every personal trainer, every, nutritionist out there that your insurance will set you up with. I've done personal chefs, spent thousands of dollars on pre-made meals. I've done shots. Right now it's a big subject is these GLP-1 shots. Well, you put trust in your doctor. And when your doctor says, hey, Rochelle, I need to give you this shot and it's going to help regulate your hormones, is how they're pushing the shot.
Mm.
Well, after 30 days of, quote, being on this hormone balance shot, my brain was not working correctly. I couldn't think just everyday normal stuff. And then I started feeling differently and my organs started hurting and the pain even got worse. So I've tried everything. And I was literally at my breaking point that I have to give this one thing this last chance. When you're desperate, when you're literally are hanging yourself on the thought of suicide and depression. And where do you go from here? Do I kick the chair underneath my feet and let myself hang and do away with myself? Or do I say, okay, Satan, you have no authority over my life, and I'm going to give this one more shot and I'm going to see what this is all about? That was my deciding moment, was not to kick the chair underneath my feet and allow myself to be hung.
Well, you know what? That's tremendous. And it takes a lot of courage for somebody to get to that point and say, this is where it stops, and I'm going to turn this around. Now, thinking back, and I know you're a very giving person, and I don't think your family or people around you would know how much hurt and pain you are, because you have a way of masking that and hiding that. But I want to ask you, how do you think, with your health the way it was and your mental condition, how did it affect your family around you? What can you see is different?
Well, before it was like, hey, let's go for walks. Come with us. Let's go, hike. Oh, I can't. I don't feel good. Hey, let's go over here and let's go do this. No, I don't want to. I'm not feeling good. Every day it was like, I don't feel good. They could see the pain. It got to the point where they just stopped asking. you know and it's not that many of us don't have supportive family members. We have supportive friends and family, but you guess what, eventually they stop asking and they just go without you, and you miss out and you miss the opportunities of experiencing new things and great things. And then you start telling yourself, well, you know what, I feel terrible, I must be just lazy. And so then guess what, on top of everything I was already feeling, you start telling yourself, this is never going to be a success story. You're never going to mount everything. You watch these stories on TV, like all these weight loss shows or whatever, and you're like, I'm determined, I'm determined. But then the mind clicks and then the pain kicks in, and you're like, oh, I'll never be like that. And so it just constantly is setting you up. The family gets tired of trying to figure out a solution for you. And then they're hurting because they don't have answers for you.
Mm,
So it's not their lack of empathy, it's just their lack of knowledge.
yeah.
That's a very good point you brought out there. And for you as a person that I know, you're a person of excellence. Whatever you do, whether you give classes to people, whether you do weddings, you open up your heart and you give it 100%. And
Thank
I
you.
can see how giving everything 100% and not getting there can get to you and you start the self doubt. But
Mhm.
what I saw the day that you came to visit us was a Rochelle that was willing to say, I need help. And I think that's a point where many of us take quite a long time to reach
I
because we'll
agree.
try this, we'll ask people, we'll get some stuff, but we're not getting to the root of it. And this is now my question is what was the final clincher? What do you think was it? Could it be many things or was there one thing that just did it?
I think it was the breaking point. I was tired, I was exhausted, and I was at the end. And I had 2 choices, either live life or end life. And I chose to live life because of people like you and a program like this. I don't even want to call it a program. It's just having the freedom to be who I needed to be that I knew I could be. And the outcome was still deep inside my spirit. I was just being discouraged and having setbacks.
Mm. Rochelle, thank you for being vulnerable. Um, I have to say, it moves my heart to hear your story and to look back from meeting one to where you are now.
Thank you.
It's just a night and day difference, night and day.
I remember the first call, like, I could barely compose myself. I remember just crying and I thought, "These people think I'm just a crazy person. They probably think I need a prescription," and I just remember crying and crying and crying. It was just a cry for help that was so deep in the pit of my spirit and in my stomach. I just all I could do was cry and listen to you guys say, "Hey, we're gonna do this together."
Yes. And that is the one thing we do. So you came into us, we put you on the journey, and we told you that we're gonna be right there beside you. And you went through the journey, and I have to say you were a star student,
Thank you.
absolute star student. And now looking back to where you are now, tell us how life is for you right now.
Well, when the great thing about this medication reduction that I love the most was when you both sat down with me, it's not a, hey, this is the plan and you're going to do this and you're going on this diet. It's not like that. It's, hey, what are some of your goals in life? What are some of your dreams? And we're going to do this together and we're going to take this test and the different tests that you had me do was an eye opener. It wasn't like you're bad, your A1C is high and now you're going to die. Nothing negative. It was like we're going to do this together and we're going to see these results go down. And I remember the very first question you guys asked me before because as you know, I was working out of state and my husband was going to come in about 2.5 months. And the very first question you guys asked me, if you were to lose weight, how much would you want to lose in 2.5 months? And I was like, it'd be nice to be down 20 pounds, in 3 months or something. And I said, they're like, it wasn't like, oh, you're going to do more than that. You were like, that's a great goal. So let's set little goals. How much would you like to lose in 2 weeks? I told Yvette, maybe 5 pounds, that's a good 5 pounds. And so I remember taking getting on the scale. And what I love too is that you don't teach the scale to be your marker, your point of getting those weight loss numbers or those numbers in your brain, because I think what happens is we can focus too much on the numbers and it can be discouraging and it can be a place where for some people mentally it could take you backwards. And what I learned is getting on the scale all of a sudden, I after 2 weeks, Yvette's like, you're down like 14 pounds. I think it was like 12 or 14 pounds. I was like, Yvette, come on, you're joking. And I was like, no. And she's like, yeah, okay, get off. Let's see. She goes, look. So she pushes the button and resets it, to clear the computer off. And it's a computerized one. So, they don't lie. And I get on it again and I'm like, but that can't be. And it's because you're teaching the science behind the food and how the body works to the cell level. It's not a program where I'm going to go home and eat 4 eggs, 2 burgers, and XYZ, because that's where the diets have failed. And because people see it as a diet, you guys have put it in my brain and rewired my brain to say this is a lifestyle and it's fun. And
Yes.
so that's where I started to see those results. And within the first 2 weeks, my back started moving a little bit better. My knees were a little bit better. And then I was sleeping. Like one night, I just slept through the night. I woke up in a panic because I had slept 8 hours straight without peeing 10 times through the night. I'm like, okay, there's something behind this. Teach me. I want more. I want more. And when we're to a point where we're desperate, we want more. And when you see the little steps of rewards that your dedication and your work is doing, you want more. And when you guys are cheering us on, you want more because no one else is cheering us on. Your family is frustrated because they don't have answers. You guys have the answers.
Just want to interrupt quickly and say I wish I had my camera there the day Rochelle got on the scale the first time, because she had this absolute blank expression. She looked at me and I was like,
Yeah.
you're down 13 pounds. And she goes, no, and she got on the scale again and she looked at me and I still thought, why aren't you jumping up and down, woman? This is amazing. But she did not expect this. You were so shocked. And your first words out of your mouth was, and this was from eating like this?
Yeah.
Two things we're not comprehending, but
No, right.
I saw, and that's also why we don't want people to focus on a scale,
Yes.
because a scale is not the ultimate.
Right.
We want you to start listening to your body, which you subsequently have.
You
Yeah.
mentioned some really important markers besides the weight: the sleeping, the movement, and the pain. Those are things that I feel people, they don't get a baseline, because I think if everybody got a baseline before they started getting sick, they would say, oh, now I actually feel bad. But because those things are things that just slowly creeps into your life, and then you start making the excuses of, oh, it's just probably because I'm old, probably because
Yeah.
I'm not, and that's not it. Now that you know what good actually feels like, then it's sometimes hard to believe that that is actually how you felt before.
And
So
Johan, one other one is the going to the bathroom. You know
Yes,
how many people we know that say, oh, I have to get up at night like 3, 4 times. It's not normal. It's not the way it should be. So when Rochelle mentioned that she wasn't going to the bathroom 10 times a night, all of a sudden sleeping through, that is huge.
and I have to say, from my perspective, is your clarity of mind is phenomenal. From
thank you.
meeting one to now, how do you feel personally about that? How do you experience your clarity of mind now, like in a work situation, when people discuss things? Do you feel you comprehend better, you're faster thinking?
Definitely, definitely. And you are able to process things better. You're able to understand also through this whole journey that I've been on, and I'm still not done yet because a marathon takes time. You don't finish it quickly. It it helps you see things and understand things about your body. You learn to listen to your body and you learn to understand that you don't live, the motto, I think it's you live to eat. And so we've been trained that, you live to eat. And so you got fuel your brain, fuel your brain. And no, I don't. It's okay. I'm not going to die if I miss a meal. I used to think that the snacking and, I eat 3 meals a day and I have to snack in between. And I remember another funny story. I called Yvette and I was like, Yvette, I forgot to eat today. And then, wait a second, I was driving home. I have my nuts that I always carry an emergency pack of food in the car. I didn't eat this week. Is that okay? Am I thinking correctly, or am I on a bad path? And she's like, no, that's clarity. That's your brain beginning to understand how your body works. And that's why it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And when we begin to think and know and understand how our brain thinks and operates from mind, body, and spirit, there's healing that takes place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just want to quickly interject because with your current work, working in trauma and going back, the one thing that you pointed out now that I think is why you were so receptive was if you had different ways of thinking about stuff. For example, the 5 meals a day, I'm going to die if I don't eat, meat is bad for me, all those kind of things. I think your receptiveness of that and really breaking, strongholds to me is a lie you've told yourself. So breaking those strongholds and those thoughts in your brain has actually set you free, where
Yes,
food is not your enemy anymore, but you have a total different look when you look at food.
for sure. So true. People notice, they're like, you just don't crave the sugars anymore. You don't. And I'm not saying, hey, you know what? There haven't been one or two times where I've taken a bite, but you know what? I don't want it. I felt miserable. I didn't like it. Now, once you have clarity of mind and understand the mind and the body and the spirit connection to the food that God has created, you do not want the processed and the sugars, and you don't want that stuff in your life because you don't want to go back to day one. And when you start seeing inches come off, and then all of a sudden you've gotten through the first month, and then the second month, and then the third month, and all of a sudden the weight is coming off, and so much weight so fast, not because you're starving, because I'm eating more now, which is weird. I eat more now than I did before, and the weight comes off so fast that people around me and in social groups think that I've literally have taken this shot, and I'm like, no. And they're like, what are you doing? Because you look so healthy, and I get compliments on my skin and how things have tightened up and your waist and then all of a sudden I'm getting rid of 6 huge moving boxes of clothes. Like, I'm getting rid of another box today. Jeff, my husband, is like, this is costing me a fortune, you know? So
Well, you
yeah.
mentioned one other thing too, and I think that's important. Do you remember back in the days when you were overweight and you are in that down trenches and you eat a plate of food? You're always very aware of how much you put on your plate.
Yes.
I remember the first time I grilled you some chicken and stuff when you were at our house, and I loaded the plate, and you looked at me with these big eyes, and I said, eat. And that is to break the mindset that I should be embarrassed about how much I eat in front of people. And I think you broke that.
Amen. I did. The other day we were just at a restaurant and I piled this plate up with meat and everybody's looking at me. You don't want rice? You don't want the bread? You don't want the salad? And I'm like, oh no, I'm all about the meat. And because it fills you up, you sleep better at night, you have clarity of mindset. I'm not saying salads and vegetables are bad. I think it's within limitations, or the quantity, because they can be high in carbs, and those are things that you can learn. Nightshade, I realize that a lot of these vegetables add to inflammation.
Yes.
That's through educating myself. I
Hmm.
didn't know that. All these
Yeah.
other diet programs are like, eat your salad and put a little bit of protein on there, but eat your fruits and vegetables. Well, how come my sugar levels are going through the roof? My A1C was in the sixes. I'm talking mid sixes. It was going high in the high 60s. I was heading that way. And now all of a sudden I'm in, you know, in the fours. That's impossible. Even when I went to the doctor, they couldn't believe it. They're like, "What are you doing?
Mm.
The medication must be working." And I said, "No, I haven't taken the medication."
Yes. And said a lot about what we made you eat. But being on this journey with us, how hard was it? Was it
It
something
wasn't.
that's really
It
hard?
wasn't. No, it's not. You know what's hard is these programs like Jenny Craig and these meal programs that say you have to eat this at breakfast, you have to eat this at lunch, and you have to have a snack. That was so stressful to me that you guys were like, "Hey, this is a plan. You're gonna go home and eat till you're full." And I'm like, but where's my snack?" No,
Yeah.
you're gonna go home. We're gonna repeat this. You're going to go home and you're gonna eat till you're full. And then that's it. And you're gonna cut it off and you're gonna go drink some water, have a good night's sleep, and go to bed. And I'm
Well,
like, wait, what?
something I could have slipped past people that I want you to mention again, because this is always a big hurdle. You were living out of state. You were not living at home when you started this. And there is nothing harder than trying to do something like this when you're not in your home and not in the environment you know. And I think when you mentioned that, some people need to realize, because people will make excuses and like, I'm not ready, it's not the right place. But you did it at the most difficult time, at the lowest point, and you were superb.
Yes. I
Yeah,
re
I think everybody in life needs a cheerleader. I teach that over and over again in my trauma and recovery. And if you just have that one cheerleader to cheer you on in life, that's who you focus on. Whether you're a person of faith or not, it's having that one physical person, kind of like a support system. And with what you all do at medication reduction, there's a support system. It was like you email us anytime, day or night. You call me if you're on the brink of, disaster mentally, physically. You call us. And that was the breaking and pivotal point of part of my success was that, and knowing that, hey, I'm eating, this is strange, and I'm losing more weight, and my goal was, okay, so what's the next goal? And the funny goal is that I didn't tell my husband I was doing this because I wanted to surprise him when he picked me up. And I said to you all, I want to lose, if I lose 25 pounds, and okay, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go 25 pounds or 20 pounds, I think it was, in 3 months. That's good. That's good. And then all of a sudden, the scale just kept getting lower and lower. And when I went to pick him up at the airport that day, I weighed myself and my inches, and I'd lost so many inches, and I'd lost 35 pounds. When I jumped out of the car, he was like,
yeah.
what happened? And it just, since then, just keeps coming off. And then you don't focus on the weight. You focus on, what goes in your body. And then the inches start happening. And the next thing you know, it's like you're losing inches in your arm, in your waist, in your chest, in your back, and your hips and your legs. I mean, all over. And you're like, okay, this is working. There's something behind this. And this is a lifestyle change. It's not a short-term project.
And you
How
have
many?
no surgery planned?
No, I actually canceled my back surgery, a meeting with the surgeon, and he's like, "No, you should still come in. We should still take x-rays and update, and just see how you're doing." I said, "I'm doing great. I appreciate it. If I need you, if I get in a car wreck, you'll be the first back surgeon I will call, but for now, I'm living healthy and whole, and what it does to you spiritually, if you're not a person of faith, man, your spirit will change. You will find your true identity and who you were created to be. And as a Christian myself, I have found a deeper love to God the Father who made us, truly understanding what your body means to be a temple of the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit. And what a
Mm,
blessing it is to have this body.
yeah.
Wow,
That
so
that's
much
that's
truth.
deep. Yeah, for sure. Rochelle, I just want to congratulate you again because really what you've accomplished is phenomenal. And I want to thank you for being such a great student and being such a positive person because you're so positive. Some people we encounter where we do things for free, they'll have a problem for each solution. But you just listened and you said, oh, this is what I need to do. And as soon as you understood it, you followed through. And like they say, the proof is in the pudding, and there you are. So,
Yes.
Well, you were an absolute incredible example of from the beginning stages with the training and the learning and the videos and teaching you how Johanna and I both could see there were certain things you weren't grasping. And absolutely as the you know the food and the impact of the nutrition changed, there was a couple of times when you asked questions back to us that we were both like, she got it. We didn't say it at the time, only later on, but your mental clarity is incredible. And I think this has taught Johanna and myself to have a lot of grace with people. In our work as pharmacists, we do realize that there's a lot of inflammation in people's brains. So explaining something over and over, you realize they're not getting it. They're not getting it. But we could
Right.
literally see in the meeting, we spoke about A1C. And Johan was explaining to about how sticky the glycation, all of that process. And you got it. You repeated it back and you were like, that's how it works. And I think that was one of the biggest turning points where your body was responding to the nutrients you were giving it and discarding stuff that shouldn't have been there.
Correct.
So,
Correct. That's what
so,
I
so
love
good.
about yeah, sorry. That's what I just get so excited. This is what I love about it is the education. And no question, no nothing is ever off limits or a stupid question. I never knew inflammation, the amount of inflammation in my body was destroying me. And so one thing that I really learned was inflammation. I didn't realize it was like, here's inflammation, here's our body. So inflammation gets in here, but this balloon just goes. This is inflammation. So here's my body. It starts off right inflammation. See, my body's growing and growing and getting fatter and fatter. And here's inflammation. Pretty soon, inflammation. This is inflammation. Where's my body? Hiding under the inflammation. Then you can't move because you're stuck. Where else am I supposed to go? And so it's a lot of teaching. Like I said, it's the science, it's the understanding that's told to me in layman's terms that I can understand. Everybody knows what a balloon is. We celebrate with balloons, you know? And so that was a great way to understand and taking all of the tests and then you walking through it step by step. I never knew what I think it's DHEA. I never knew what
mm,
that was.
yeah.
You know, like, what is that? And so you begin to understand how uniquely your body works when everything aligns up.
Well, Rochelle, thank you so much for joining us on this
Thank you.
podcast because really you are such an inspiration to us, definitely, and I'm pretty sure to a lot of our listeners. But I want to ask you one question. What advice would you give a person that might be in your original position when you just came to a vet, who wants to make a change, who feel that there is no hope?
Just do it. You've got to allow a vet and Johan to teach you. It's not a diet, it's not a program. It's two people cheering you on to see you have the best in outcome in your life, healthy, health wise, mentally, and spiritually. And they will be there every step of the way. And I am proof in my 50s, nothing worked. And now I'm living my best life in my 50s. And I wish I would have met Johan and Yvette when I was early on, when I was getting diagnosed in my 20s with all of these severities with cancer and all of these other health things that followed because I was listening to the medical field. I'm not saying the medical field is a bad place. I'm just saying for me, I needed the education and I don't care what sacrifice you have to make. to be a part of this educational panel to learn so you can live your best life.
Wow, that
You
is so,
deserve
so
it.
special. Thanks, Rochelle.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so much. And I'm pretty sure everybody who is going to hear this testimony of you, they're going to be even more encouraged than I am right now.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you
well,
so much.
thank you so much again. And I know you're not done yet,
Nope.
but you've
Still
got the
work.
tools.
Yes. I
And I
even
do
said I was
believe,
sad. I was like, "No, I
Yeah,
wanna start all over again just so I could have more time with you all."
yeah,
But I know you'll still be there. That's the thing. That's the beauty of it. When you go to these other programs, when you're done, you're done. But
yeah.
with you all, it's a lifetime. So if I ever have a question, I just email you. You're still there every step of the way till I'm, you know, whatever, I leave this earth. And that's what's great about this
Well,
process of education.
we'll have you
yeah,
on again
yeah.
Thank you.
because there's really so much to give to people when you start talking about. I've absolutely implemented this in my life. So I would
Yeah,
love for us to see you again. This puts a little bit of a goal for you as well,
yeah,
because then we can see how the future holds, how you've incorporated certain things in your life. That really would be great for people to share, because so many times you get these journeys and you hear nothing else again from that
yeah,
person. So I
yeah.
really would like to follow up with you again.
Aw, thank
I
you
It's
so
been an
agree.
much. Love
absolute
you
pleasure.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Views and opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and are intended for educational and informational purpose only. This podcast does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The information shared should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice from your personal health care provider. Always consult your physician, pharmacist, or qualified health professional before making any changes to medications, supplements, or health regimens. We are also promoters of Neolife nutritionals, beauty, and household products, and this stems from our knowledge of their purity and the company's reputation to provide products of outstanding quality. While we may discuss our experiences in the retail pharmacy setting and share insights into functional medicine, our conversations reflect our professional perspectives and personal opinions, and not those of our employers, affiliated organizations, or licensing boards. By listening to From Pulse to Purpose podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and agree that the host and guests are not liable for any outcomes resulting from the use of the information discussed in this podcast.